welcome to this Planning Advisory and Adjustment Committee meeting. Prior to our meeting, I'd like to read our Pembroke Land Acknowledgement Statement. As we gather today, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of this committee and the community that the city of Pembroke resides on the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. Bring the committee meeting to order, please, and can we have approval of the agenda? Moved by Ed, seconded by Ian, all in favor. Carried, thank you. Approval of minutes of May 25th, 26th having been circulated. Marcel, seconder Ian, all in favor of the minutes. Any omissions to the minutes? Sorry. Okay, thank you. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest or natural or general nature thereof? Seeing none, we'll go right into new business. Subdivision 47T 90003, La Pointe, Pembroke Development Submission, JP2BJ. Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our applicant, Anthony Homick of JP2G Consultants, Inc., on behalf of the property owners, has submitted an application for redline revisions and amendments to conditions of draft approval for draft approved plan of subdivision 47T 9003 in the city of Pembroke. So we should note that section 51, subsection 44 of the Planning Act allows for the approval authority to amend the conditions of draft approval at any time prior to the approval of a final plan of subdivision. Section 51, subsection 47 of the Planning Act goes further in stating that a public meeting is not required if the amendments to conditions are considered minor. The Planning Department is of the opinion that the proposed redline revisions and amendments to conditions are minor. However, because draft approval was originally received in 1990, it was felt that the public should be given the opportunity to review and comment upon the changes, as there may be, especially as there may be new property owners in the neighborhood since the original draft approval was received. The province of Ontario's Bill 185, which received royal assent on June 6th, 2024, made changes to the Planning Act regarding the lapsing of draft plans of subdivision, known as use it or lose it. For draft plans of subdivision given approval on or before March 27th, 1995, a developer must register the plan of subdivision and enter into a subdivision agreement prior to June 6th, 2027. This use it or lose it applies to subdivision. So to summarize redline revisions and the conditions of the amended of draft approval, subdivision, which was formerly known as Vintage Communities, Inc., currently known as La Pointe Pembroke Development Subdivision, received draft approval from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing on August 10th, 1990, with no expiration date. The subdivision has not moved beyond its original draft approval status in the years since. The current property owner wishes for permission to make redline revisions to the plan of subdivision and amend the conditions of draft approval. The proposed redline revisions will ensure that the final plan is better aligned with contemporary planning and engineering practices, and it generally consists of providing all blocks with sufficient road frontage, minor changes to the road configuration, and it incorporates a stormwater management block that was not previously contemplated. The proposed amended conditions of draft approval will remove and or update outdated references. In your report packages, we have included additional conditions, as well as in full the amended conditions and the redline revisions. In terms of zoning, the subject lands of the subdivision they're a mixture of zones. So we have R218, R417, R418, institutional special exception 10, and open space. These are zoned by Schedule A of the current zoning bylaw 2020-05. Now, these zonings were put in place, they were intended for the previous draft plan of subdivision. So an application to amend the zonings to reflect the proposed red line revisions will be applied for in the future should these red line revisions be approved. The subject lands are designated residential by Schedule A of the official plan 2016. This designation encourages the development of neighborhoods containing a variety of housing forms intended to meet a broad range of housing needs. The revised subdivision continues to provide a mix of housing types and densities that are contemplated by the designation. The proposal also supports the goals of the official plan by promoting efficient use of municipal infrastructure, providing opportunities for active transportation, and improving connectivity between adjacent residential neighborhoods. The proposed red line revisions and amendments to conditions of draft approval are in keeping with the residential designation of the official plan. The addition of a dedicated stormwater management facility improves the overall functionality of the subdivision and better aligns the development with current stormwater management policies contained within the official plan. A traffic brief has been submitted in support of the application, which concluded that the surrounding road network is capable of accommodating traffic generated by the development and that nearby intersections are expected to continue operating at acceptable levels of service. The proposed red line revisions and amendments to conditions of draft approval are in keeping with the current provincial planning statement 2024. These subject lands are located within the City of Pembroke settlement area, which is intended to be the focus of growth and development. The subdivision will provide a range and mix of housing options, including low, medium, and high density residential development. The proposal contributes toward the creation of a complete community by providing housing opportunities for residents at various stages of life and income levels. The subdivision will be fully serviced by municipal water and sanitary sewer services, which is the preferred servicing hierarchy under the provincial planning statement. An environmental impact study has been completed in support of the development. The study concluded that the proposed subdivision can proceed without significant adverse impacts to identified natural heritage features, provided the recommended mitigation measures are implemented through the subdivision approval process. And we have added that a condition of the subdivision agreement will be that the full recommendations of the environmental impact study completed by JP2G Consultants, Inc. and dated November 25th, 2025 be fulfilled in full. Therefore, this application is in keeping with the natural heritage policies of the provincial planning statement. So the planning department is recommending the approval of the proposed red line revisions and amendments to conditions of draft approval for this subdivision, as all of the above are in keeping with the intents of the zoning bylaw, official plan, and the provincial planning statement.
Thank you, Owen. Owen, were there any submissions received regarding this application?
Yes, a number of submissions were received. The first one being from the legal representatives of the Renfrew County District School Board. The school board has noted two concerns. One, that for public access to its property via a proposed pathway between lot 71 and 72, they would like this block to be removed from the plan. And two, they are requesting a fence along the boundary of the subdivision and the school lands. So that is from the legal representative of Renfrew County District School Board. We've also received comments from the Township of Laurentian Valley, basically noting that the subdivision is within the Pleasant View Municipal Drain. So they have requested two conditions be added to the draft plan of approval. And we have received a submission from Gabe Kluche, of a neighboring property owner. He has concerns about dead trees along the border. These have been passed to the developer. And that is what we have received prior to the meeting.
Is there anyone here representing the application and would like to speak to it?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. I thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening, and nice to see you all again. For the record, my name is Anthony Homick, and I'm the manager of the planning team at JP2G and a senior planner. And I'm joined here with by Mr. Lapointe here this afternoon. Given that Owen has provided such a detailed summary of the application, I'm going to attempt to be as brief as possible in my remarks. Be pleased to answer any questions that committee may have after I provide my statements. So first and foremost, as you've heard, this subdivision was draft approved in 1990. At the time, it was not atypical for draft approvals to have no expiration date attached to them. And therefore, this subdivision was able to stay in its draft approved state for quite some time. You heard about the use it or lose it clause from Owen. So we are on the clock, so to speak, to get final approval for the subdivision by this time next year. Also, you heard that it's worth noting that there is no requirement for this public meeting. However, I completely agree with staff that certainly a good idea to go back out and inform members of the public what's going on, given how long ago this draft approval was provided by the province at the time. It's also worth noting that the subdivisions are plans of subdivision are no longer appealable by third parties, just for your information. And also worth noting that if we had just carried on seeking final approval for the draft without rejigging, we could have also done so without a public meeting. So that said, as I mentioned, we're happy to be here, happy to solicit feedback from neighbors and from committee. And we feel it's important to go through that process again. So as discussed in our planning justification report, the red line submission is aimed to bring the 1990 draft approval into better alignment with contemporary planning and engineering practice. And the key driver really is the introduction of a stormwater management block that was never contemplated in the 1990 approval. And so to accommodate this, we've taken 2 blocks that were previously shown for residential, and we've turned them into a block that's a little over 2 acres in area for an appropriately sized stormwater management facility. There's 3 other key changes that I would like to highlight. One is the reduction in size of a previously proposed central boulevard to a new street that will meet current city standards when it's constructed. And this provides more buildable area back to those future development lots rather than a very large boulevard through the middle there. The second is the elimination of the O'Brien Road extension that's on the existing draft plan in favor of a connection through the neighboring River Point subdivision and then out to O'Brien, Bell, and Angus Campbell. And on that note, I'm sure many of you will be aware of the infrastructure that exists within that O'Brien extension that was previously contemplated. There's the twin sewer force main that runs through there, and there's a hydro line that runs right down the middle. And so be cost prohibitive to move some of that infrastructure and work with that infrastructure. And it just made sense working together with Township of Laurentian Valley to integrate the 2 developments together into a intersection configuration there that made sense. Aside from these changes, the vast majority of the revisions are minor tweaks to lot frontages and lot areas. These are all provided on page 3 in a table in our planning report. There were some very minor changes to lot frontage and depth for these detached and semi-detached lots. And some of these are quite simply as a result of the level of accuracy with which we can now prepare a draft plan. As you might expect, surveying equipment is a lot more precise now than it was in 1990. We're not changing at this time any of the uses that were already permitted in the zoning that was passed for the 1990 subdivision. But as Owen mentioned, any of the tweaks that come as a result of a approved red line revision will require an amendment to that zoning bylaws for potentially frontages and areas and things like that. We do intend to leave the uses as is for now. A couple other things to highlight for the committee. The full build out of the subject lands is anticipated to result in about 470 units across a mix of dwelling typologies that Owen mentioned. The first phase of development, which would be along the western and northern boundary of the site, would be would include approximately 83 units in singles and semis. With respect to stormwater management, we have completed a 60% detailed design for all municipal services, including stormwater, which is with City Public Works staff for review at the moment. And a formal stormwater management report is forthcoming. But I believe it's approximately 95% of the stormwater from the development that's going to be conveyed to the municipal drain, and only about 5% or a very, very low flow is going to be conveyed down to Duville and within city limits. We will be constructing a new ditch within the property limits of the subject lands adjacent to the ditch that exists already in the development to the west. And this is to not interfere with any existing drainage patterns on that development next door. With respect to traffic, you will all likely be aware that the city and Laurentian Valley recently completed a transportation master plan. And unfortunately, this property was not included in the assessment of projected growth. So as Owen mentioned, we had the master plan authors, which is Paradigm, rerun their model to include this development. And while the master plan does contemplate the need for lights at Duville and McKay eventually, this one development by itself does not trigger any local intersection improvements. In the transportation master plan, it's identified that those lights might be required in 10 to 20 years, depending on how much of the identified development across the city and Laurentian Valley come to fruition in that time. Lastly, it's worth noting the draft approval predated the Endangered Species Act. That's how long we're going back. So we did do an environmental impact study, as Owen mentioned, to assess the property for the presence of any endangered species. There were no endangered species found, but potential habitat does exist, and therefore the EIS provides a series of recommendations to clear the property for development in as ecologically sound a manner as possible. And this includes timing windows for vegetation removal to protect breeding birds and bats, among other recommendations. And as you heard, the EIS recommendations will be included in the ultimate subdivision agreement. I just received those comments from the school board this morning, and we don't have any objection to their comments about the fence. And we don't have any objection to their comment about removing pedestrian access to the school board lands. However, that block will need to stay in situ there because we are accommodating drainage from the school board property on this site. And the stormwater facility will be designed to appropriately handle all the water that's currently draining from the school site onto our property. Also, I also just received those comments from the township this afternoon, and we don't have any issues in principle. Obviously, this property is part of the municipal drain catchment area, and future homeowners will be paying into that municipal drain. We just need to discuss timing as Laurentian Valley is undergoing a review of their municipal drain at the moment, and it could take some time for them to finalize that report. So we will just need to think about how, and we'll have to discuss with the township how that timing will relate to the use it or lose it. Given we may not be able to get satisfactory comments from Laurentian Valley in time for next June. So with that, we're of the opinion that the changes we are proposing constitute minor amendments that can be processed by way of this red line revision before you. And with that, I'd be pleased to answer any questions or elaborate on anything that I've mentioned. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much. Questions? Is the end?
So the traffic report kind of just glosses over the easterly new route that's coming up. Is there a reason why it's, I mean, there's going to be a lot of traffic suddenly going to Angus Campbell. This focuses more on the other direction. Is there a reason for that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't know off the top of my head. I could certainly get an answer through Owen. But I would rely on the traffic experts for having looked at all of the areas.
Because the report mentions it and then
Yes.
just focuses entirely on everything else.
And we were provided some direction from city staff to look at those 3 particular intersections to the east. So that's why we asked Paradigm to look at those intersections.
Okay, I more care actually in the other direction. With respect to the school, is anybody here from the school? Okay, I don't care about those 2 things. The block can stay where it is. If the school wants to put up a fence, the school can put up a fence.
We would have to put up the fence.
Why?
I think that's fairly typical of development adjacent to school properties for safety primarily.
Okay, well, my position is I don't care. The school wants a fence, the school could put up a fence. They have money. And then the dead trees, I'm assuming those are just going to be taken care of in the ordinary course.
We can certainly take that one. Owen provided that comment to me. I actually haven't let Mr. Lapointe know yet, so we'll. But certainly we can.
A forest there. It was going to be tree clearing anyway, so I would have guessed that even without that comment, things would be taken care of. So all that is to say, in terms of the the reason I'm focusing on the issues that came up is because I don't, well, the traffic one bothers me, but the others I don't see as issues. I think this looks like a great plan. I very much look forward to seeing shovels getting in the ground sooner rather than later. Obviously, we know that we have a housing issue in this area, just as the whole country does. But certainly in this area, we also are probably about to get an influx of military members. I think that's pretty well played out in terms of the media and whatnot. So I think it looks great. I'm happy to support this, and I don't see those other issues as concerning me at all.
Thank you. Romeo?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'm kind of excited to see this particular plan come forward. There's no question it's going to provide much needed resident, the type of residents and so on. I haven't worked in that high school, by the way, for about 30 years or 20 years. I'm very familiar with the property, and so I think that it's a great plan. A couple of little questions that nagged me. The other one has to do with the blocks were previously proposed as the O'Brien Street extension, but are now redundant due to the proposed connection to the neighboring subdivision. Now, I'm not privy that the city's in conversations with Laurentian Valley, but looking at your plan, where would you connect with Laurentian Valley? Is it going to be the Greenway Drive crossing what would be the proposed O'Brien? Or is it going to be the continuation of Duville Drive?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. The connection to the neighboring development is that Gardenway Drive currently shown that will cross what was shown as the O'Brien extension.
Yeah.
And then it loops past a block or two within that development next door, and then comes back right up to the intersection at O'Brien and Bell. And then Duville, being city right of way, will maybe ultimately be connected through there at some point in the future.
But at the present time, Duville Drive will have to be built a little bit more eastward. Is that going to be the responsibility of the city?
No, through you, Mr. Chair, that will be part of the construction of the
Will be
subdivision.
part of the discussions.
And future discussions will take place with Public Works about how far to extend it, but most likely it will be extended as far as necessary to provide access to the stormwater management block for future maintenance.
Another question. I'm sorry, I don't want to monopolize this. I know, having worked with Councillor Giacono for years and years, I know this is on his mind, so I'm going to beat him to it. I'm looking at this particular development and I'm saying to myself, well, it's obvious the western part is going to be developed first. Economically, it makes sense to develop that section. What bothers me is there's only one for the fire department at the time. And that bothers me because when you have, I'm sure when it goes through the departments of the city, they're going to note that. And I think Councillor Giacono has often mentioned that. The only other thing that I can see is that Quarry Road can be pushed through the existing, up to the existing public works property onto Duville Drive. I think they have a road that goes on there anyways. I don't think it's legitimate, but they do have a little road that cuts across. So what I'm saying is that I'd be a little concerned that could provide the second way into that western part of the subdivision in the case that Duville Drive gets knocked out for some reason. That's the only little concern I have right there, is about that aspect involving a backup plan for a fire department to get in there. And that is one of the concerns I wanted to mention. The other has to do with the environmental impact study. I mean, this is well done. I haven't seen one of these in ages, and especially for that little piece of property. It's unbelievable the amount of animals that are in there and the kind of situations that have come up and the challenges that you're going to have. Just a little comment on it. I look at natural heritage features and areas, and you talk about bats. endangered. Little brown bat, endangered. Northern myotis, endangered. Tricolored bat, endangered. Eastern red bat, endangered. Hoary bat, endangered. And silver-haired bat, endangered. I mean, I look at that, my first impression is you're never going to get permission to build there. But your conclusion is you're not going to impact those things. So I guess maybe I'm interpreting the word endangered incorrectly here. It is an endangered species, but there won't be any major effect on their habitat. Is that what you're saying?
Thank you through you, Mr. Chair. So I'm not the author of the report. That's
Yeah.
my colleague, Brianna Kenny. Certainly pass along your comments about the robustness of the report. But what I can say is that with respect to bats, primarily there's timing windows that are typically adhered to. So you can remove trees during the non-nesting, non-mating seasons that can do so without harming the populations. And there's also of woodland in the area as well. So that's where the conclusion that we don't anticipate any significant impacts to bat habitat comes from.
Thank you very much. It was just kind of an ironical piece of information. But well done. Looking forward to the shovels going in the ground. And we've been waiting since what? 1990 for something to be done there. I was around whenever that was agreed to, and we haven't seen shovels in the ground. But knowing how Mr. Poirier or Mr. Lapointe operates, I think we'll have shovels in the ground there pretty soon.
Marcel.
Most of one of my questions was answered. I had the same question as Romeo, especially on Duville Drive, Mr. Chair. And my second comment was again touched on by Romeo, but can we get any idea of when the shovels would go into the ground? Like, are we looking at a win it or lose it again, or?
That's a good question through you, Mr. Chair. I think we'd like to get shovels in the ground. I don't know if I can say as soon as possible, but there's certainly a commitment being expressed here by working towards that, the final approval. We could have just let it lapse and reapply. So I think that I can't give you an exact date yet on when construction might take place, but we're certainly committed to moving it forward by working towards this final approval.
Thank you. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to thank Mr. Point for taking his time to come here. I don't think he had to be here, but I appreciate your interest and all the other good work that you've done in the area over the years. Appreciate it. I was a little astounded myself about the ecology and the focus on the endangered species. I think the only bat you didn't mention there was a snub-nosed bat. Perhaps there's too many bats in the belfry. However, bats will adapt. I mean, people adapt. And I was looking at the drainage area as well. Drainage, I think, is very important to reduce, species such as the mosquito or the black fly that do carry disease to people. And I think it's very important that this is being addressed. The other thing is the endangered species of trees. I guess it was mentioned the black ash and the butternut, I think, which is used by a lot of carvers in the area. I don't think you can cut a butternut these days. We have an endangered butternut zone along the river as well. So I can identify with that, and I certainly sympathize with the developer. I mean, you have to work around all these quandaries, to get your development going. And in essence, all you're trying to do is provide invaluable homes for people that need it. The zoning itself from R2 1817, outdoor space, IO, et cetera. I think what you're presenting through the red line revisions will be an excellent opportunity for people, to have a home. And I think that's more important than anything. So I'd like to thank you for that. And I noticed the swamp areas as well. Couple of swamp areas. I presume that they'll be part of the drainage that you're proposing. And good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. And yes, Sri?
Thank you. I have one question about the mitigation measures that are recommended. The city is expressing, I mean, these are conditional, right? And they must be fulfilled. I just have a question with regards to who's responsible for checking that the mitigation measures are in fact acted on.
Through you, Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
it's a little bit of there's still a little bit of a learning curve going on. As you may have heard that the Endangered Species Act was recently amended to the Species Conservation Act. And so who's responsible is the proponent. It is now a proponent-led and driven system, whereby the developer and the environmental consultant working on behalf of the developer will file a filing of some sort with the ministry. So it is the proponent's responsibility. Of course, the recommendations from the environmental impact study are also in a subdivision agreement. So the city could step in and enforce if there is anything, I obviously don't anticipate it, but any activities that the city feels are in contravention of the subdivision agreement, the city could step in as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any interested parties in the audience that would like to speak to the application? Yes. Charles.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Charles Cheeseman, and I live with my wife at 171 Poplar Ridge Road, which is immediately adjacent to the proposed subdivision lands. I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to speak to you for this afternoon and providing a notice in mail, which is very helpful to the public. And I want to thank Colleen and Owen. I met with them last week on some of the issues that I had, and some of them are raised here tonight, and they've addressed them. And I had a telephone conversation with Anthony this morning, I guess, and I just outlined some of my concerns and just general issues, and he's answered most of those, probably all of them. I had a statement prepared, but because a lot of the information has been covered, I will be very brief relatively to what I was originally going to say, which was still brief. As some of you may know, my professional background is a land use planner, so I'm very, very familiar with this process. But I've just heard there's been a whole bunch of changes since I've retired that I wasn't aware of, and thank God I'm retired. So, and when we purchased the property, we knew very well it was going to be developed. There's no surprise there. And I'm just glad to see that it's being done in a very professional way. The city's looking at the interests of the public as well in ensuring this. My comments were centered around some of the things we've talked about tonight. The drainage and stormwater implementation, transportation, and timing. In terms of drainage and stormwater, I was very grateful to hear a bit of a discussion about the stormwater management pond and the ditch that's going to be proposed, a drainage easement that will pair it's on our property. And that will mean that some of the storm off from Mr. Lapointe's property will go into his ditch and not into ours, and maybe harm our ditch. I would ask, I don't know if this is the appropriate venue, but when that new ditch is built, whether the existing ditch that's on our property will be modified as well, so that you have two up-to-date ditches ready to go. And that's just something I'll just leave for the record verbally here tonight, this afternoon. We've talked about the EIS, and as I mentioned to Colleen and Owen, I was very impressed by the EIS as well. It was a very well done study, a lot of recommendations in it, and I'm glad they're going to be included in the subdivision agreement. And how that gets implemented, that's for another day. I would also, I think the stormwater management plan, I think the recommendations in there will also be part of the subdivision agreement, if I'm not mistaken. So that just ensures that whatever's recommended in the studies gets actually put in place, so that they're not just on a shelf somewhere. Traffic and transportation, the paradigm study was very interesting. I had hoped that the Douville would extend, and then you would go up this O'Brien extension to O'Brien Road and Angus Campbell Drive, and it would be a great link in the city, east-west. But I understand the fact that you can't do that because of the existing drain and hydro line. So I think the fact that it connects to the River Point subdivision is great news, so that the two subdivisions are connected. In terms of timing, it's funny, I asked Anthony the timing on it, And you asked the timing on it and a little bit different. They were basically the same answer. Nobody knows. I think you folks are, you'd like to get the shovels in the ground as soon as possible, but if it's another year or two delayed, it won't affect me, but it's up to your process and Mr. Lapointe and how he sees it in his schedule of different developments. I think that really concludes all my comments. I do again want to thank the city and Anthony for your assistance on some of this information and appreciate it. And we'll live with the development and look forward to it. And we'll do what we can at our end to make sure it's, we can be good neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other interested parties wishing to speak to the application? Yes, yes.
I certainly want to be a good neighbor, Mr. Cheeseman, and I'm from Pembroke, born and raised here, still working, trying to retire, but now I'm into this stuff. It is difficult, and I would like to be able to say to council, I'm sure council would like to hear we'll be in it tomorrow, but we got all these hurdles to get over, and it's you're retired, and it sure has changed. And my son didn't like the car business, so this is what I'm doing now with my son. Boundary Road, we're quite pleased with it. Got 47 lots in there, and he's starting to build houses, and there'll be some open houses for anybody that's here that's interested this weekend. But I would like to get at it sooner than later. I currently have several of these things in the hop, and I'm trying to get them ready and get at it, because the market is good. All you comments about the base and whatnot, and we do need more tax revenue here. I'm shocked at the amount of conversations I run into where people like Pembroke but are concerned with the taxes. I'm talking to kids that are 32 to 40 years old where the taxes are pretty heavy. So we have to get more of this stuff, whether it's this one or other things, without raising the taxes of those of us that are living here in the city. We have to figure out a formula. So that's all I'd like to say. And thank you. And by the way, Pembroke is well known for being good to work with. And I want to say that openly, having grown up here and having worked, and I'm certainly not knocking Petawawa or Laurentian Valley because I'm there too, but you guys are. My son wanted me to put that forward. The permits come quickly once everything is done. And you can see from this that they've tried to head I'm not so sure that, being a Catholic, maybe I should have asked for forgiveness. This environmental study may come back with all these bats, which you alluded to. God, there's a lot of people drive black trucks, and in case there's something that happens to the bats. Anyway, that's all. I better stop now. So thank you for giving me the time. And that's it. If there's any other questions, but anyway, the dead trees, naturally, we're going to be your neighbors. So within reason, we'll be taking those trees down. Like it's, and I still burn wood, so not in town, but so.
Charles?
Mr. Chair, sir, I just had one thing I wanted to mention, and I spoke to Anthony about this morning. I don't know if a crusher or screening plant or equipment will be brought onto the property to crunch gravel for fill. And if it could be put as far away from the existing homes as possible. And whether that could even be put in the subdivision agreement, I don't know, but that's just one final point I wanted to raise.
I would not envision that. I'm still kind of in that business, and I don't have a pit there, but I have one that's out of the air. So what I would envision is we will haul in our gravel. There'll be no crushing on site. That unless we found a huge deposit of rock that's, you know what I mean? But no, you can't crush, I don't think, within city limits anyway.
Marcel?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we accept the proposal as presented.
Seconded by Ed.
Move by.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you.
So this item will move to a public meeting of council on the 14th of July with this committee's recommendation for approval.
Okay, thank you, Owen. item, A for 2026, 538 Avenue. Theodore Mayo. Owen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our applicant, Theodore Marito, has submitted a site plan proposing the construction of a fence at his property of 538 Maple Avenue. The property is zoned residential type 2 R2 by the zoning bylaw. Currently, a single detached dwelling exists on the property with its rear yard fenced in by a 4-foot high wooden fence. Mr. Marito would like to replace the existing wooden fence, but he would like the replacement fence to be 10 feet in height. The zoning bylaw states that the maximum height of a fence in a residential zone shall be 7 feet measured above finished grade. As such, relief of 3 feet from this provision of the zoning bylaw is required to be granted for the proposed fence. The requested relief can be viewed as minor in nature at a single item of relief, as well as numerically at only 3 feet of relief. The requested relief can be viewed as being consistent with the character of the neighborhood, because as the grade of the property at 538 Maple Avenue slopes very steeply to the rear, the impact and impression of a higher fence is lessened. In this way, the intent of the zoning bylaw can also be viewed as being met. The requested relief can be viewed as being desirable within the neighborhood because it will give privacy to both 538 Maple Avenue as well as abutting 546 Maple Avenue. The property owner of said property is also here, is also present tonight in support of this application. 538 Maple Avenue is designated residential by the official plan. The proposed fence will support the property's continued and improved residential use and is therefore in keeping with the intent of the official plan designation. Regarding the provincial planning statement, the proposed fence will continue to support and improve, again, the property's intended residential use and the current as well as the future owner's residential use of the property. And as such, the planning department is recommending that the committee approve the minor variance application for 538 Maple Avenue to grant relief from the residential fence's maximum height requirement for a fence in an R2 zone.
Thank you, Owen. Anyone here wishing to speak to the application? Yes.
Thank you,
Name
Mr.
and
Chairman.
address, please. Yes.
I'm Ted Marito. I'm the owner at 546 Maple. This is Mike Walsh, the owner of the property adjoining it at, 538 Maple, 546 Maple. Just to clarify, the fence that we're seeking is just between the two property lines. It's not fully enclosing the rear yard, just between the two. As Owen mentioned, we are on the west side of Maple, which slopes down towards Center Street. It's quite a steep slope. I know I have to walk up and down it to my vegetable garden every day, and I built, stairs there. We have a deck that is essentially on the side yard abutting Mr. Walsh's property. Mr. Walsh has a deck which his is also on the side yard, so they're really abutting each other. Mr. Walsh's is actually a little further down the slope, and so you can imagine elevation wise, our deck is sort of looking down on his. They, use their deck as we do ours. They have a hot tub on theirs, and no offense to Mr. Walsh, but I think none of us really enjoy seeing others parade around in their hot tub attire. As Owen mentioned, via 10-foot wooden fence, definitely keeping with the surrounding neighborhood and the fences that are currently there. I've personally contacted our neighbor to the north, who has no issues, and also our neighbor immediately behind us on Center Street, Danielle, who has no issues, and obviously our neighbor immediately adjacent here is certainly fully engaged and interested in this going forward. Anything to add, Mike?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it is uncomfortable when you're looking down in your neighbor's deck and you're seeing what they're doing, right? I look over and there's no privacy, right? So the neighbor at the back actually did put up one last year or the year before, I guess. And I can understand why. It's aesthetically pleasing. It'll be private, you know, which is what we want. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Any questions to the, yes, Ed?
Mr. Chair, I find it a legitimate request. You know, people want to have their privacy, of course, and it's not outlandish. And I mean, we've got two neighbors that are here, obviously, that are speaking to each other, which is good. And maybe if the fence didn't go up, they wouldn't be talking to each other. So I wouldn't want to see that. But I think it's a legitimate request.
Good fences make good neighbors.
I agree with Councillor Giacono. I drove around there and it's not going to be obtrusive. It's not going to be, if anything, it's going to add to your privacy and to the quality of life you as neighbors enjoy together. So I'm prepared to move that we accept this application.
We have a seconder. Marcel, any further questions? Yes, Ian.
I won't be supporting this one, and it's not necessarily about the specific issue that we have here. Describing a 3-foot extension on a 7-foot as minor, I think is absurd. That's over a 40% increase. And I know I've held this line before on this committee. I would love at some point for somebody to give me a definition of minor, because 42% is not my definition of minor. If we want to have a bigger discussion about fence heights, I'm prepared to have that, just as I am, you know, or I know I've spoken with Colleen before about our building height limit that I don't necessarily understand. The decisions that we make here are also not about the two current neighbors. It's also about the future owners of these properties. We're being told that a fence went up last year 10 feet. Am I to assume that's an illegal fence? Because I don't think a 10-foot requirement has come before us before. So is the other 10-foot fence that went up last year, is that?
I can speak to that. It was a few more years than
Yeah.
2 years ago. It was a legal fence because I received a letter from the city asking if I had any objections, because I was within the whatever 60-meter zoning. So that one at the back of his, which is actually a Hunter residence that requested that, is legal. I would just add that I was doing some fence planning just yesterday and went out and measured the slope of our yard. And at one point, the steepest slope is actually a 3 feet drop in a 6-foot run, which is a 50% drop. So while we're only asking for, you know, a 40% increase in height, that's to offset a 50% slope in our mutual yards.
So I guess the issue though is if you look at the definition, it specifically says from grade. And I believe at some point in time in the city, because I think I might have been the lawyer on the file way back when, there was an individual who wanted a higher fence and basically threatened to just build a berm so they could build their 7-foot fence. And I'm pretty sure the response we gave them was, you can't do that to frustrate the purpose of the 7-foot requirement. I don't understand. Can someone from staff explain to me this letter thing that didn't come? Did it come before here to get a minor variance on the 10-foot, or?
Through you, okay, I don't remember the year, but there was one on Hunter Street several years ago, maybe before 4 years. It's more than 4 years old, but it was exactly the same issue. It was because of the slope, and that's why they were granted the 10-foot fence.
So what I think we should be doing is looking at our bylaw to either start accounting for slope or to consider whether we want a fence height restriction at all. But these one-offs, just the reason they annoy me is because this city has a really bad precedent-setting record. We say yes to things over here, we say then no to other people. I mean, you're giving me a look, but just my 4 years here, we are bad at precedent setting. So that's why I'm not supporting it, because I don't see it as a minor variance. I don't consider 42% of something to be minor. It's nothing to do with the particular circumstance. It's me having probably a pretty narrow view of our zoning bylaw. And if we want to go to that to change it, then let's have that discussion.
Owen?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So there is no definition under the Planning Act of minor, but we have to consider not just numerically, but the overall impact of the variance. But speaking specifically to numerically, I'd say this respectfully, Councillor Keel, but at our last meeting regarding a 40% reduction in the requirement, you said it was a waste of time bringing it to this committee. And that was a 40%. This is a 43% variance. So
Well, I don't like these minor variants coming to us for these kinds of things are kind of a waste of committee time, but it still doesn't speak to the fact that we have bylaws and then we just constantly approve minor changes.
Anyone else to speak to the application? Yes.
Just to respond to Councillor, thank you. Just to respond to Councillor Keel's comments. You know, it would be nice if everything was cookie cutter situations. And it's not like that. When you have residents and you have a community, you've got them. We got to go with the land. We got to go with the environment. And I would hate to see a specific definition tied for minor. I think each case has to be looked at. That's why this committee is here, is to look at those simple little cases. Otherwise, if the rules and regulations that we have or in our bylaws were adhered to, you wouldn't need this committee. You wouldn't need an advisory committee. So I sense your frustration. On the other hand, maybe that's your legal background where you like to see things like that. I don't know. But I prefer to allow a little bit of flexibility. And this is a perfect example. I have no problem if somebody comes at next month and wants to put a 10-foot fence and it doesn't make sense if it's obtrusive, excuse me. I have no problem justifying saying no. Just like I have no problem accepting this one based on the circumstances of the property that we're dealing with. Just a comment.
Any further discussion? We have a motion. Or do we? Yes. Or do we?
I thought
I guess we have.
I moved it. I've already moved it.
Huh, Ed? Yes, okay. Thank you, Ed. Any further, all in favor of the motion? Not in favor? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Marito, so there is a 20-day appeal period that will be triggered tomorrow for this application. After the 20-day appeal period, should that successfully close, the application is considered final and you can proceed with the work.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Our next application is B3 2026 and B4 2026. 435 Moffett Street and 439 Moffett Street. Carolyn Kelly. Owen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The applicant, Carolyn Kelly, has submitted applications for consent to sever from her existing property of 202 Margaret Street to create 2 new additional lots for future residential development. So the existing property of 202 Margaret Street is zoned. It has a mixture of zoning markers on it: residential type 2, slope stability, and hazard zoning, according to the zoning bylaw, Schedule A of the zoning bylaw. The R2 portion of the zoning allows for up to 2 primary dwelling units. The slope stability marker indicates that no development shall be permitted within 30 meters of the top of the bank unless a supporting geotechnical study indicates that the setback can be reduced. And in such cases, that setback shall be determined by that geotechnical report. The H portion of the zoning prohibits any buildings or structures of any kind within the portion of the lands zoned as such. So currently, a single detached dwelling exists on the property. Ms. Kelly proposes to maintain the existing single detached dwelling on the proposed retained lot. And for the proposed severed lots, they would be vacant land until such a time that development proposals are brought forward. The proposed retained lot would maintain the civic address of 202 Margaret Street. It would have a frontage of approximately 262 feet, an irregular depth of approximately 148 feet, and a lot area of approximately 38,776 square feet. This proposed retained lot would maintain its zoning. All requirements for a single detached dwelling in an R2 zone would continue to be met and exceeded, including those for minimums for lot area, lot frontage, front yard setback, rear yard setback, interior side yard setback, and lot depth. So for the proposed severed lots, they do have the exact same dimensions. So I'll say them once. So each proposed severed lot, the first one, which would become 435 Moffat Street, the second, which would become 439 Moffat Street. They would each have a frontage of approximately 73 feet, a depth of approximately 125 feet, and a lot area of approximately 9,125 square feet. They would maintain the existing zoning. All requirements for lots in an R2 zone are met and exceeded for these lots, including minimums for lot area, lot frontage, and lot depth. Now, the requirements of the slope stability marker would be met by a condition of these consents being that a supporting geotechnical study indicating that development may occur on the proposed severed lots be supplied to the Secretary Treasurer of the planning of this committee. So should the geotechnical study come back indicating that development cannot occur, these consents will lapse. Should the geotechnical study come back, development can occur and in what form, the severance can then be finalized and development could proceed. Regarding parking, the zoning bylaw requires 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit for single detached dwellings. Ample existing driveway space exists on the proposed retained lot to accommodate the required parking, and parking requirements for the proposed severed lots would be dealt with upon receiving site plans for any future development. As the proposed retained lot and both proposed severed lots will meet and exceed applicable R2 provisions, and as the slope stability provision would be addressed by conditions of consent, and as parking regulations are met, these applications meet all applicable requirements of the zoning bylaw. The property is designated as residential under the city's official plan. As the proposed severance will allow for 2 new lots to be created for future residential infill development within an already built up area with existing servicing, these applications strongly meet the residential directive of the official plan. Both the official plan and the provincial planning statement, the preferred servicing hierarchy is that all residential development be adequately serviced with municipal water and sewer services. The existing single detached dwelling on the proposed retained lot is currently fully serviced, and that same servicing, full servicing would be available on Moffat Street to the proposed severed lots. Regarding the provincial planning statement, as these applications will again support future residential infill within a previously developed area, introducing new housing options and resulting in a net increase in residential units. These applications are in keeping with the current provincial planning statement. 2 further conditions of consent, the first being the standard that a 5% parkland dedication fee be paid on the proposed severed lots as per the Planning Act, that would apply, and that a registered plan of survey depicting the severed lands be supplied to the Secretary Treasurer. And again, as I already mentioned, a condition for each severed lot to have a supporting geotechnical study indicating that it can be developed. As such, the Planning Department is recommending that the committee approve, subject to conditions, these applications for consent to sever for 435 Moffat Street and 439 Moffat Street.
Anyone representing this application that would like to speak to the application?
So Ms. Kelly was intending on being present tonight. Unfortunately, circumstances arose that she could not make it. So she is not present this evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody who wishes to speak? Anyone else wanting to speak to the application, please come forward and state your name and address, please. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Thank you very much for hearing me today. My name is Wendy Michael. My husband, Jason, and I live adjacent to this property at 443 Moffett Street. Mr. and Mrs. Kelly have been wonderful neighbors. We understand that they have been trying to sell their home, and selling a property of that size in this market, we do appreciate would be difficult. And severing the land would allow them the opportunity to better make those sales. We also know that living on Moffett Street, and I'm sure you're all very aware of the conditions on Moffett Street. It is a beautiful park-like area. We love our home. We will live there until they drag us out. But the city has spent considerable money fixing that corner at Welland and Margaret, where all of the problems have occurred along that embankment. And that was done a couple of years ago. I'm sure most of you are aware of that and the expense that was involved. Beautiful job. It looks great. It seems to be far more steady than it was, shall we say. But it's a river, and it weaves and it goes and it comes, and there's always that concern. We've always tried to stay within that hazard land. It's 100 feet from the slope, plus 98 point, to be exact, 98.42 feet from the slope, that you have to stay within without constructing any new buildings, any new projects. And we've always been very cautious of that, as are a lot of our neighbors. The concern is looking at these two properties, and we do see them every day. We're right beside them. The way they're set, it would bring them very close to that distance. At 125 feet, that takes them to the top of the slope. If you were to take that 100 feet into account, and then you take a frontage, that really does not leave proper area for a home, for a development. When you add extra infrastructure to this area, it also affects, as we know, it can affect the drainage and runoff, which again, we know was completed and repaired, but it does affect things. Our biggest concern is that development there would cause any erosion issues coming forward, that it just may not be suitable. We also have a concern about the fact of the way the new lots are drawn up. The lots have been drawn up so that the back end of them ends at the slope, start of the slope, and the slope will stay attached to the original property. And we're not certain what the purpose of this is and where this might go down the road, as when you talk about geotechnical surveys and such, who's responsible for what at these properties? If these properties end at the top of the slope, how are they affected by that hazard distance? And what becomes the responsibility of the property owner that, whether it be Chris and Caroline Kelly or someone who has purchased that other property, does this become a problem? Or would they use that property to access the river behind? It just seems like a bit of confusion there. So our main concern that we just wanted to bring to this council, unfortunately, my husband couldn't be with me this evening, was just to say that we don't feel it's suitable, and we understand that development is important. We know housing is important, but we just don't feel it is a suitable area for this type of land. Or if the property could be done in a severance that allows the sloped area to stay with the property that is severed, so it doesn't stay with the original property. And you'd have to look at the map to understand what they have done here, and I'm sure you've all looked at it, just to keep it so that there would be one individual or one owner responsible for that entire area, not divided between two.
Thank you. Owen, do you want to respond, or? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So I just want to clarify, because I think there's a bit of confusion between, there's a hazard zone on this property, which is specifically from the top of the bank down to the river, and that does prohibit any development whatsoever. However, it would be impossible to develop that, as it's a very steep riverbank. The remainder of the property has a slope stability marker on it, which indicates that from the top of the bank inwards, development can potentially occur. It just requires a geotechnical study that indicates that it is safe to do so. So essentially, all of your concerns would be addressed by a professional geotechnical study. Should the study come back that that erosion would occur, that the soils are unstable, that servicing it would further destabilize it, then development won't occur and these severances will lapse. So I think those concerns are addressed. Regarding the shape of the parcel, the applicant preferred to maintain the waterfront and to advertise these, to potentially advertise, should this go ahead, the new severed lots as being not on water. And I actually think keeping the riverfront under a single ownership may actually be simpler in terms of dealing with any potential issues. But those issues in terms of the hazard zone are not a question of this committee, as the hazard zone will not be developed from the top of the riverbank down.
Okay, further questions? Yes.
As I understand, and I want the planning department to comment on this, as I understand, whenever someone is going to want to build something, you gotta go through a site plan agreement. And it is during that process that a lot of this stuff is going to be addressed to make sure that it's safe. I don't know, isn't that so?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So in this case, because the development would be less than 10 dwelling units, site plan approval does not apply. A site plan is submitted as part of a building permit application package, and a building permit application determines a giant number of safety requirements. However, we are front loading these severance applications in that, again, if these studies come back that it is not safe for development, then these severances aren't, that they will lapse. This committee may give provisional consent that it can proceed upon conditions, but the conditions will be stating that if these geotechnical studies come back and they fail, the consent lapses, and the applicant is aware of that, the risk of that.
A follow-up question. Where does this value 30 meters from the top of the bank slope stability, where does that 30 meters, where does that come from? Why isn't it 20 or 40?
So I believe that was determined, I believe that's been the case under multiple zoning bylaws, but that would have been determined by, I believe, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry.
Okay, so, and how recent is that?
Okay, now we're talking 4 years. Now we're talking more than 4 years. This has been probably in effect since, probably at least since the 1997 zoning bylaw.
In view of the action that has occurred in that area and on the opposite side, with slope stability being questioned, I'm even wondering if that 30 is reasonable, but then we'd have to have another study, I guess.
Through you, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, that's the geotechnical study is required. So it's done by an engineering company or an engineering person. And then they're going to go in and they're going to look at the soil. They're going to determine whether that setback can be reduced or not. So if it can be reduced and we still have enough area for a single family home, then they could go ahead and develop it based on that study. If it can't, like Owen says, then the severance will lapse because there's no development that'll be permitted.
So the speaker's comments and concerns actually are being addressed, will be
Yes.
addressed.
Yes. Yes, yes, okay.
Is it a responsibility, then I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, that it would be the responsibility of Mr. and Mrs. Kelly to have that survey done before the severance is completed?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Any further questions? Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Wendy for coming to state your opinion. I appreciate that. This whole area is built on Leda clay and alluvial glacial deposits. So to me, it's unstable from a geological standpoint. I mean, I'm not a geologist but I, from past experience and seeing what's happened along that erosion basin, until we hear from this report, I don't think we can make any type of a decision in regards to this property at this time. That is my impression.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So Councillor Jacno, your decision is it's conditional upon this study coming back positive. So if the committee chooses to approve these consent applications, they're only provisionally granted. All conditions have to be met, or else the decision is reversed.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's the case who's going to pay for the study. I mean, an individual that's going to want to sell this or buy it is the one that's going to pay the city. Otherwise, say we want to have the study, then we got to pay for it. To me, I believe this, that's why I'm going to support this, because I think all the safety features are there to protect.
Ian?
So I think this one's actually being handled perfectly between the proponent and the city. So by putting it in the middle, it means that they're not doing geological survey to begin with, and then we turned down, and then they did that survey for nothing. They're also not presumably proceeding with the surveying and all of that stuff until after the geological study says that it's okay to move forward. So to me, where they've put this is actually quite strategically and monetarily beneficial. They're obviously going to spend, they've spent some money coming to us tonight. If we give them the first hurdle, they'll spend some money getting that report. And then if the report comes back, and again, yes, Councillor Jackman was right, none of us around here are experts in this. But the people that do these reports take them quite seriously, particularly when it's involved with erosion or whatnot. And in my real estate dealings, I've looked at some of these reports. I don't know that I've ever understood one, but I've looked at a couple of them. So I think from a strategic point of view, I think this was probably the best way to handle this. I certainly, I would be lying if I didn't say to you that I have concerns. Obviously, I think some of the worst erosion is around the bend on the Welland, at the bend and around the bend on Welland, but there's also, I know, some pockets. It's not necessarily the entire stretch of Moffat, but there are some other more minor concerns elsewhere. With respect to Moffat Street, if we get to the point where we can approve these, and if an expert tells us that the ground there is stable and we can build on it, I think it'll be some nice new development for the area. I also have reason to believe that all of this might actually be hypothetical from a conversation I had this weekend, but we'll see where it goes. I'll move that we accept the recommendations as presented, and certainly if the geotechnical comes back and says that this is a no-go, as you've already heard from staff, and I think everybody in this committee would agree with me, it's a no-go. So so yeah, it's
We have a seconder.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Thank you very much for hearing me out tonight.
Mhm. Next one is A5 2026, 660 Pembroke Street East, Nicholas Castanis. And this is a minor variance, and I think to build up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Ian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Owen. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you too, Ian.
Our applicant for this application, Nicholas Castañas, owner of Fresco's Tap and Grill, has submitted a site plan for an outdoor commercial patio for his business at 660 Pembroke Street East. The property is zoned highway commercial C2 by the zoning bylaw. An eating establishment, already mentioned, Fresco's Tap and Grill, exists on the property, which is a permitted use under the C2 zoning. Now, further, according to the zoning bylaw, an outdoor commercial patio is permitted where it is operated as part of a permitted eating establishment. So as such, the use of an outdoor commercial patio is permitted at 660 Pembroke Street East, subject to applicable regulations of the zoning bylaw. Now, regarding applicable regulations, the zoning bylaw states that an outdoor commercial patio shall not be permitted in any yard abutting a residential zone unless the outdoor commercial patio is set back a minimum of 30 meters from the lands in a residential zone, and such patio is screened from the residential zone by a building, structure, or wall that is at least 2 meters in height to screen the patio from view from the residential zone and to mitigate noise. Now, the proposed outdoor commercial patio is set back 15 meters from abutting residentially zoned 224 Rosewood Avenue, which means that relief of 15 meters is required from this provision of the zoning bylaw. Further, a small portion of the patio has no physical screening from the residentially zoned property. This requested relief can be viewed as being minor in nature because with heavy natural vegetation at the applicable abutting property line, the intent of the zoning bylaw to screen the patio from view of the residential zone is met. Further, only a small portion of the patio, a tail of it, comes within 15 meters of the abutting residential zone. The majority of the patio is located in front of the eating establishment building and is therefore screened from view by the building, and it is set back 21 meters from the abutting residential zone. So the requested relief can be viewed as, the requested relief can be viewed as being consistent with the character of and desirable within the neighborhood, because Pembroke Street East is lined with highway commercial businesses that have limited setbacks to their southerly abutting residential zones. Now, regarding parking, the zoning bylaw states that an outdoor commercial patio shall not encroach on or eliminate any required driveway, aisle, or parking or loading space. According to the zoning bylaws calculations, 20 parking spaces are required for an eating establishment the size of Fresco's Tap and Grill. These 20 parking spaces are provided on lot at 660 Pembroke Street East. However, the proposed outdoor commercial patio will take up 3 of these spaces, meaning that relief of 3 parking spaces from this provision of the zoning bylaw is required. This requested relief can be viewed as a minor in nature at 15% and having a minimal impact in the neighborhood because of ample on-street parking on Rosewood Avenue, which is along the property line of 660 Pembroke Street East itself. The property is designated highway commercial by Schedule A of the official plan. The official plan regarding this designation states that the scope of permitted uses shall include restaurants, and it continues that highway commercial uses shall be located on an interior or collector road. As such, Fresco's Tap and Grill is a restaurant located on Pembroke Street East, designated arterial road by Schedule B of the official plan, and its proposed outdoor commercial patio will support the property's continued and improved highway commercial use, and it is therefore in keeping with the intent of the official plan designation. For the provincial planning statement 2024, it states that planning authorities shall promote economic development and competitiveness by providing for an appropriate range and mix of employment and broader mixed uses to meet long-term needs. As the requested relief for the proposed outdoor commercial patio will promote economic development and competitiveness, this application can be viewed as being in keeping with the provincial planning statement. As such, the planning department is recommending that the committee approve the minor variance application for 660 Pembroke Street East to grant relief from setback and screening to a residential zone for an outdoor commercial patio and minimum number of parking space requirements in a highway commercial zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Did we receive any submissions regarding this application, Owen?
No submissions nor inquiries were received regarding this application.
Good, thank you very much. Anyone representing the application that would like to address the committee?
Good evening, committee. My name is Nicholas Castañas, a proud owner of Fresco's Tap and Grill. Been part of this community for just over 30 years. Love the community. only want to see us prosper as a community. And my minor variance on this patio, for me, as a business owner, I think it's cosmetically more pleasing than what I have done in the last 5 years. That I'm pretty sure everybody had seen a big tent out in the parking lot and kind of closed off that whole in and out. And anyways, it served its purpose over COVID. And luckily we had that, and we, you know, continue to operate as a business and prosper. But this year we kind of took it upon ourselves and thought maybe we do something a little bit more cosmetically attractive for the city of Pembroke, for our business when people are driving by, a little bit more inviting. So we decided to build this patio, and I wouldn't do anything that would disrupt the neighborhood. I do realize that we're under the requirement of 30 meters from the direct home right behind us. But we're not planning on having any loud parties or late nights of drinking or any of that nonsense going on our patio, for it to hopefully not be an issue anyways. So I thank everybody for the opportunity for me to be here tonight and represent my company. That's my wife, Ksenia, by the way. And yeah, just hoping we can get it up and running as soon as possible.
Questions? Ed?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair. I can't believe it's been 30 years since you've been there. I know that, the Greek community had a habit of meeting there to have their coffee and their arguments, which is part of the culture. And I was included in that sometime.
Oh, yeah.
I was, they used to call me Jackanopoulos because they couldn't pronounce Jackano
Yeah.
properly. But anyways, I just want to specify that the Greek community within our city has been a very powerful developmental tool, from the Bonanza restaurant, where Barbarosas ran the Club Grill, the Basarises that had the, can't remember the name.
JJ's.
PJ's restaurant, and they always contributed to the community. When people were coming with their hands out for donation, go and see so-and-so. I don't think it was too often they said no. And from that stand, and to see that your business will continue to prosper and that you're part of our community, I'll certainly be in favor of this.
Well, thank you very
Take
much.
the motion,
Thank you.
Ed?
I would so move that we accept the motion, Mr. Chair.
Seconder?
I'll second. I'd like to just make a comment
Yeah.
in supporting the motion. If there was no complaint from 224 Rosewood Avenue, I mean, who are we to turn this down? Because everybody else is in business out there, and any reasonable request that comes before this committee, and I use the word reasonable, to assist a business, and that's a tough business that you're in, experienced by the number of restaurants that have closed this past year in Pembroke. There's your proof. So anything we can do in order to accommodate it, I'm certainly will be supporting that.
Thank you.
Ian?
You started building the patio, right? Okay. Cardinal sin for me. I do not ever accept on this council begging for forgiveness beforehand or afterwards. I want to keep my positions clear because I did that with the grind a couple of years ago when they built a patio and then came to us. Certainly, I want to support all businesses, and certainly our new CIP program and the number of things this council has done has supported businesses. But I will never vote for something that's already been done and then coming here for forgiveness. So it certainly has nothing to do with your business or wanting to support you. The parking also makes me a little nervous, as I think Colleen's smirking now because she was probably thinking that's what I thought was going to come out of your mouth. But I do appreciate that there is at the moment at least allowable parking on Rosewood. I know because I have parked there almost every single time that I've gone to your restaurant, because usually when we meet on Fridays, I'm one of the last to arrive because I'm not one of my fellow lawyers who are retired or judges that seem to get off earlier than I do. So I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I want to be able to continue to look a couple others in the face when I told them that I didn't want to vote for something that was already underway. So that's the main reason that I'll be voting against tonight. But you know, the hypocrite in me, I'll probably be on the patio in the not so distant future.
Sorry, what if we took it away because it is a floating deck as well, and then just applied? Can we do that?
I think you're going to get a yes vote, so I would just leave me be.
Yeah,
Walk
yeah.
past it. I'm reading the table, and
She's trying to say is it is a floating deck and it is removable.
I wouldn't do that for
It'd
me.
be a big job event and try putting it back together, but it is a floating deck which can be removed if need be. So,
I'm not going to recommend that.
yeah, okay. I'm happy for that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So there is a 20-day appeal period, which will be triggered tomorrow. And as soon as that appeal period is final, or sorry, has closed with no appeals received, the application is considered final.
You didn't happen to bring any lasagna for the committee, did you?
Okay.
Anyways, thank you for your time. Okay.
Past decisions. Own.
Get in touch with your buddies at the Detroit Red Wings and send Larkin to Montreal. Right?
I will for Caulfield and. Have a good night, everybody.
Okay. Yep.
So at our committee's last meeting of May 25th, 2026, a single application was heard, a minor variance for 360 Matheson Drive. This committee did approve the application and it has successfully completed its 20-day appeal period. It is now final.
Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, June the 29th. June, it must be July.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Sorry,
Chair. That
okay.
was an
Yeah,
original, that was my mistake on the original copy of the agenda, which
We can have another meeting right now. Huh?
No, we can't. I have a new car to pick up in 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
the next meeting date would be July the 27th, Monday, July the 27th.
Okay. Motion to adjourn. Read, shall say. Thank you very much, folks.